Welcome to Nice and Blunt. My name is Adam Riancho, and we are live on YouTube for the first time on this channel. It's very exciting and looking forward to doing many more live streams in the future. But for today, we are going to be going over the astrology for the month of August for the sign of Aquarius. And just a heads up, a little bit of a disclaimer, I guess. This is obviously a general reading, but we are mostly focusing on the rising sign for the sake of this astrology outlook, this reading, the way I interpret it that I feel is most accurate to look at your chart and astrology has to do with your rising sign because that's what lays out all the houses. And we will get to all the other signs in due time, but for the sake of this video, we're going to be looking at a chart for a rising Aquarius. So if I bring up house systems and certain transits and how they influence you, it may not exactly be super specific to you if you are simply a Aquarius sun or Aquarius moon. These are specifically intended for Aquarius rising. So with that in mind, let's get into the main transits of the moment. And our first one that's really the biggest overall energy that the collective is going through is this Sun conjunct Venus in retrograde in the sign of Leo. For Aquarius rising, that is in your seventh house, that is in the sign of relationships. So, what this is influencing is how you not only view like long term partnership, but also general partnerships overall. So, this can have something to do with your job, especially when it comes to Venus. That's the sign of love and feminine energy, but also the sign that has to do with the planet that has to do with material wealth and possessions. So the way that you attract money to you is definitely something that Venus influences. And this retrograde period that won't be over until September 3rd is currently, I think, at one of the height of this transit, especially because of the conjunction. At the moment, it's called a cazimi, when a planet and the sun are so close to each other, especially one like Venus, where if you were to look at it in the night sky, it is completely blotted out by the sun. It will reemerge in the night sky in a few days. But at the moment, the energy is kind of peaking. It has over the weekend. And I think the clarity that may come with this overall retrograde period is starting to really be reinforced and galvanized over the last couple of days, but especially the next 2 days as well, because today's the 14th of August, and as we can see here, the moon is very quickly creeping up on this conjunction. At the moment, the moon is actually in Cancer, but in order to get this specific chart, I'm looking at the rising sign in Aquarius will happen later on this evening. So the moon is still in Cancer at the moment, but it moves the fastest of any planetary body. And overnight, it will shift into the sign of Leo. And once we hit the 16th, so that's going to be Wednesday, August 16th, it will cross over both the Venus retrograde and the sun. We will have a new moon on August 16th. So that's going to be probably the strongest planetary alignment of this Venus retrograde period. And I think some of the lessons, some of the conclusions that we may reach by the time this transit is over at the end of September might be all coming to fruition, might be all coming to a head over the next 2 days. And I think we're all going to have a little bit more clarity, especially for us Aquarians. I am a rising Aquarius, so this is very emblematic of my chart. I think some of the disappointments that you may have had in terms of love, in terms of relationships, that maybe you were hoping would turn into something really special, I think that might be, kind of unfortunately coming to an end. We might really have our answer that we've been looking for. It might be a little bit more disappointing than maybe we hoped for in the past. But I do think if that is the case, it is obviously for your greater good. It's probably not a relationship that was meant to last in the first place. Maybe we had some misconceptions, some projections that we were putting on that person that may not come to fruition, may not be realized, or on the bright side, it's possible that it's the other way around. Some of the trials that we have been going through in that relationship might be resolving themselves very soon. And by the time this retrograde period is over, perhaps we know that the person who we are with, the person that we are thinking about in this period that means very much a lot to us, maybe we understand exactly how much they mean to us. Maybe they understand how much we mean to them. And perhaps through this difficult transit, that relationship is, proving that it's going to be one that's lasting for the long term. So I think it's an either or. I don't think it's, specifically both. I mean, why would it be both? If it's either, it's coming to an end, or it's definitely gone through a challenge and has proven that it's going to last for quite some time. So this is a very pivotal moment. Chiron, no, that's actually Lilith, excuse me, is in the same sign, but I don't put too much value on the asteroids. They have a certain value, but I'm not going to talk much about Lilith for the sake of this video. But another planetary alignment that we're going through at the moment would be not that one. It is this one. Let me get rid of the previous circle. This Mars and Mercury conjunction that's happening in Virgo is still very much a general vibe that we are all going through right now. And soon, very soon, in just 10 days from now, Virgo season is going to start. The sun will join these planets in the sign of Virgo. And the same day that this occurs, Mercury is going to go retrograde in the sign of Virgo. So that is also going to take place and overlap during the Venus retrograde. So there's going to be a lot of retrogrades going on. Saturn is also retrograde. I believe Neptune is retrograde. Maybe not. I think Pluto is absolutely retrograde right now. So just in general, we have a lot of revision going on. That's the kind of general vibe of a retrograde period. What we have been experiencing in the past is being tracked over. I mean, they're literally going over the same degrees that they had previously to this, and whatever theme that's bringing up for you is being re-examined, revisited in your mind. So that is something to keep in mind, and I think we're going to possibly welcome this Mercury retrograde a little bit in the sense that Mars will finally move off of that planet as well. The Mars-Mercury conjunction, especially in Virgo, is really heightening up some of our irritability. We can be extra perfectionist at the moment. It was a little bit more so the case over the last several weeks because of the opposition to Saturn that it was creating. Saturn is in Pisces, also retrograde right now. And about a week ago, that opposition was pretty much exact, and it was really being heightened, really the peak of that energy. But that's not really the case anymore. If anything, the opposition that we're currently dealing with is with Neptune. As you can see, this red line that's going across is hitting both of those planets. So Neptune is really the more oppositional force now when it comes to this transit. And Neptune has to do with symbolism, your dreams, a lot of inner workings of the mind. Neptune is the planetary ruler of Pisces, so think about that dream life and your subconscious. And I think something that may arise during this oppositional period is the knack for misinterpreting others. I think it can be difficult to totally understand where other people are coming from, and if they're not super direct, then it can be a little bit difficult to perfectly pinpoint what is going on, what they mean, and how the general collective is speaking to us. Our understanding is going to be a little bit skewed and maybe a little bit extra irritable. That Mars Mercury energy would like to get in a fight a little bit more. Sorry, I got rid of the wrong one there. The Mars Mercury conjunction is a little bit more combative and argumentative than a different type of conjunction with Mercury. So Mars, again, is about our aggression, that action, and a bit more of like a warlike type of mindset, whereas Mercury is all about our mind, our communication, and how we think and process the world. So those are the general momentary transits, but remember the one I mentioned just a little bit ago. Everything I think is really going to come to a head during this Leo season on the new moon that will be taking place over the next few days when the moon finally joins up with the sign of Venus. And then just a day or so later, if not a few hours after that, it's going to be conjunct the moon. That is what we call a new moon period. So, great time to start new endeavors, to really think about the last few weeks during this Leo period since the end of July, around July 23rd, 24th. And overall, whatever this is bringing up for you, us Aquarians, it's really having to do with our love life in many regards and ways that we maybe haven't felt it's been satisfying. I think now is the time to maybe leave what's been in the past, really in that past, and move on, look to the future, and have some optimism for what is going to come. Because this is a very, very strong transit, and I'm very excited about what it's going to bring up for all of us. But aside from that, I mentioned the Mercury retrograde. Mars will be moving off of Mercury once it enters the sign of Libra. That's going to take place August 28th. So while Virgo is not an easy placement for Mars, it's definitely not the easiest spot for it. Libra is not really an easy spot for it either. Libra is opposite its home planet, home sign, excuse me, of Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, so this opposition will also be rather challenging. However, the general vibe of Libra is a little bit less confrontational, much more open to compromise, and a little bit more understanding of other people's viewpoints, and a little bit more, how would we say, compassionate towards other people's desires. So I think our combative nature that may have been going on through that Mercury conjunction is really going to ease up following the 28th of August. I think the month of September moving forward is going to be a little bit more pleasant and jovial. I think we, especially once the Venus retrograde is completely over, we will definitely have a little bit more of a Venusian vibe, because Libra, at the end of the day, is ruled by the planet Venus as well. So that's Mars's counterpoint, and Mars's combative energy, I think, will be diminished to a great degree once we hit September. So that is kind of a good thing. I think we've all been a little bit drained, and while maybe it can impede our motivation, our action, I mean, Mars is definitely a good influence for those things. I think when it comes to getting along in general, I think that will be helpful. That is my opinion. It's also another air sign that is generally, good compatibility with our air sign placement in the sign of Aquarius. That is what this video is intended for at the end of the day. But aside from that, on August 27th, so the day before that, this is one thing that's going to be very interesting. The sun will be completely opposite. No, not that one. Saturn, hold on, let me get rid of sun. On August 27th, the sun will be in the sign of Virgo in the very early degrees. I believe it's going to be specifically the 3rd degree of Virgo and the 3rd degree of Pisces, where the sun and Saturn will be opposed to each other. So that opposition is going to be exact. We're already starting to feel it a little bit, but until the sun shifts into Virgo on the 24th, it's really not going to be anywhere near as prominent as it will specifically on the 27th. And this is a very challenging placement. Saturn is all about lessons and all about discipline and karma. And the sun is about our vitality, our ego, and I think it could definitely come into conflict, definitely have some differing opinions when it comes to that and how we go about our life. So one thing I would like to keep in mind is that Virgo can, especially in the younger degrees of it in the less evolved form of Virgo, it can be very wise, very intelligent, very discerning, but it can also get it in its own head sometimes and have a tendency towards perfectionism. So I think understanding that things are supposed to be more challenging right now, not supposed to be exactly perfect. We're supposed to be getting over some of those tendencies. I think that is something that's really going to help us and really keep our heads cool, because there can be a tendency to explode a little bit because Mars will still be in the sign of Virgo, specifically the day of August 27th. So just remember to breathe. One thing that could be beneficial is stretching, getting into your body. Um, Mars in Virgo and the general Virgo vibe loves to have a plan, loves to know that every step of the way we know what we're going to do. And when you want to quickly jump into something without thinking it through, that's when it can get a little bit problematic. So if we have a good plan set in place and we take the precautions to prep ourselves, such as stretching, like if you want to work out, for instance, you could possibly maybe turn an ankle or twist a knee, have some type of issues bodily if you forget to stretch. So that is something I think is very valuable to do, very important in general. But aside from that, those are the main transits in the month of August. However, when it comes to the general themes overall, we are still going through, we just entered the North Node in Aries. This is going to be the vibe through 2025. And this has to do with our house of communication, networking. And this is all about opening new roads of communication. I think it's very emblematic of what I'm doing right now. I mean, I'm an Aquarius rising, and I'm now implementing the live stream into this channel, and I want to spend a lot more time on this channel, but editing has been a big problem for me. So this is very much poignant for me, and I think now that the node is shifting into Aries, that's kind of one of the themes that I am taking on, trying to communicate a little bit more effectively and establish those new roads of communication very well. But aside from that, there's also the theme through 2026 with Saturn in Pisces. This is in our second house, which has to do with wealth, money, our jobs, material possessions. And this is going to shift how we view ourselves and our self-worth, especially when it comes to making money over the course of the next 2 years. But when it comes to Jupiter in Taurus, this will take place until May of 2024, so next year. That is something to keep in mind. This will have to do with our home life, so that is definitely changing, expanding, and I think we're making some adjustments when it comes to the long-term setup of our home and our daily life where we live. But that is also added to by Uranus, so that's the general vibe. Uranus is going to be there until 2025, and then Neptune is also compounding with Saturn in that second house as well until 2025. So those are some themes to keep in mind. And then lastly, the last thing I want to mention before we get into some tarot is that Pluto is still retrograde in our 12th house. So that has to do with our subconscious, the inner workings of the mind. And because it's the later degrees, it's definitely deep, deep, deep in our subconscious. That is something that has been reworked since 2008. Pluto is a very slow moving planet. That transit has been really hitting us hard since 2008. So if you're like me, I am very much looking forward for Pluto to be done with this transit. That's going to take place late January of 2024. There will also be a very, very minor retrograde that shifts back into Capricorn very briefly in the month of October 2024. But by the time we hit November, that's going to be completely over with. And thankfully, we'll be able to move on from that. So that's something to keep in mind, your inner workings of the mind, how you remember I have a metaphor for the 12th house. The 12th house is really like an iceberg where what's above the surface that we can see is really only a fraction of what's really going on. The subconscious, while it is kind of diminished when it comes to its importance is really running the show. Our unconscious behavior is really what is governing our mindset and how we go about this life. And Pluto is all about death and transformation. Pluto, by the end of this year, once we hit February, is finally going to ease up off of that transit, that inner workings of the mind. And I think once it finally shifts into Aquarius, we will be able to step into our power, into our true identity, and a lot of the turmoil that has been coming up for us in our 12th house will finally be over. So I am looking forward to that. But again, this video is mainly for August. That's not until late January of 2024. So that is what I have for us Aquarians when it comes to the astrology in this video. And now we will shift over to some tarot cards. We will get a general vibe for the collective in the sign of Aquarius for the month of August. It's the middle of August, so only a few more weeks left, but going to be very interesting to see what is going on. So I have here the Rider Waite deck, and I'm only going to shuffle it just a few times, but just for a reminder when it comes to like my rules of the reading, when they fall face down, I always read them upright. Only when it falls specifically reversed do I keep it and interpret it as reversed. So let's pull some cards for our sign of Aquarius. First three out of the deck would be the Five of Swords reversed, the Magician, followed by the King of Wands, and the Five of Pentacles, also reversed. So I'll keep going, but I just want to show you what the cards are as they come out. And we probably won't go more than like 10 or 12 cards, but I will keep shuffling. We did get a new card, the Empress, the next card, and also the Two of Pentacles. Okay. This one's really sticking out. So I'm going to take, oh, it looks like there's four here. Very much unique cards. And we have the Queen of Swords, the Eight of Wands, the Ace of Wands, and the Lovers. Apparently, YouTube has a kind of a strict policy when it comes to nudity. So I won't flash this one too much. That's kind of a weird thing. The Lovers barely has like, it's so small. It's odd that it's the case. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 10 cards so far. So this will be the last completion of the deck when it comes to the shuffle. And oh, we are getting some stuff as well. So okay, I will save these cards for the end. We'll talk about the 10 that have already fell out. So our first four that came up, we had this Five of Swords reversed. I think maybe we are feeling a little bit defeated in a sense. I mean, looking at this card upright, someone's played a little bit too hard. Someone has really kind of overwhelmed their opponents, and it's a little bit disappointing, a little bit defeated is the general vibe of this card. But this is reversed. So while that may be the case, I think we are moving on from this. I think we have been hurt enough and we're a little bit ready to step out of this energy. I think that's in the past and we're ready to move on, especially when it comes to these next two cards that come up. So I think we're stepping into our power. We're recognizing that maybe whatever it is that didn't work out, that left us disappointed, is not really that big of a deal. And at the end of the day, we have everything that we need in order to make that magic happen. We are the magician at the end of the day. So that, I think, is very, very positive. And what we will be stepping into in the King of Wands is also a very empowered sense of identity. I think we, recognize that where we are in life is exactly where we need to be, and we don't need to worry about others. We will attract what we need, and we have the gumption to do so. I also think involved in this, which was the fourth card that came out in that little stack there, was the Five of Pentacles reversed. So this lacking mindset, this woe is me, no one can help me, I'm a little bit you know, afraid of even asking for help. I think that's what we're getting over. I think we're finally done chasing this um, mentality that we're not enough and that things are always going to be um, disappointing. I think we're getting over that because it was reversed. It's definitely something that's in the past. That's one of the ways I interpret the reversed cards. When they're in the reversed position, we're either very reluctant to embrace this energy or it's something that we've decided to move on and get over. And what we'll be stepping into is the Empress energy. And you don't need to be a woman in order to connect with this card. The general vibe is that there is all that you need. The Empress is definitely capable, definitely someone that attracts a lot of love and a lot of divine wealth. I mean, everything, there's a lot of abundance when it comes to the Empress, and they can take on just about anything. There is also a connotation of pregnancy when it comes to this card, so I think that is something to maybe keep in mind. If you're not ready for a pregnancy, if you're not ready for a child, then maybe just be a little bit cautious in that regard. You don't have to, be a prude about it, but you can always take measures to prevent that if you're not ready for that. If you are, that's amazing, and definitely no shame there. That is just one side interpretation of the Empress, but the overall energy is that you have all that you need and you are attracting wealth and abundance to you. The Two of Pentacles, though, indicates that we have our hands full. We have multiple things that we want to accomplish, things that we are trying to achieve right now, and it takes a lot of balance. It takes a lot of our time, and we can't drop one while putting so much emphasis on the other. It's very much a balancing act, so to speak, where it's hard to stay still, but that is what we kind of need. We need to keep moving and we need to keep juggling in a sense to make things work. And focusing too much on one of these coins is going to diminish the other. We need to keep both of our hands occupied and remember that it's not about just one thing. It's about keeping ourselves busy and feeding all of the avenues that we want to grow. You need to water a plant in order for it to grow, and that is the case for all of our endeavors at the moment. We probably have multiple that we want to come to fruition. So that is something to keep in mind. And then the last four cards, the Queen of Swords, I think our mind and our kind of cunning ability is really something we need to step into. The Queen of Swords is not going to sugarcoat anything. They're not someone that is worried about feelings. If there's something that they want to say, they need to be blunt about it, and the words will come. We will have the capacity in our mind to articulate exactly what it is that we want. We're not going to hold our tongue. The Queen of Swords is ready to speak her mind and do so with swift action. This is definitely a position of authority on that throne. And I think once we embrace that authority, that is when things are going to move. The Eight of Wands is all about quick change and a lot of movement. I recently moved from LA to Minneapolis, a little bit about my life. And when I was making the decision, when I was pulling tarot cards about whether or not to move or not, to stay put, I swear for like 2 weeks straight leading up to the decision, this card just kept coming up. It was just clear indication that there was going to be a change, and once it happened, that change was going to materialize very, very quickly. I decided to drive, and within, by the time the week was over, I was in the new state. I was in a completely different location, and this is what that's all about. Change that's coming very, very quickly once we decide to step in to that power, authenticity, and embrace our mind. But one other card that has to do with this new mind that we are achieving is the Ace of Wands. So that's coming in strong for us, and especially when it comes to disappointments that may have been noted earlier in the reading, earlier in the video. I think we are getting over that. I think we are embracing the new and ready to move forward. We will have the passion, we will have the drive to take action. That's what the wands are all about. And the ace indicates it's coming out of nowhere. It's something that we didn't have before. It's all new. Remember, 2 days from now is that new moon. By the time we hit this evening, the moon will be in the sign of Leo and it will be conjunct the sun the morning, I guess the evening of the 15th through the 16th. So just one more day. And I think all of this Leo transit, this Venus in Leo retrograde period will all kind of culminate and galvanize. We will understand where we need to go, what we want, and pursue that. That is what I think this Ace of Wands is all about. And then I mentioned the censorship needed for this card, so won't keep it up too long. But the Lovers indicates, maybe a new love life, maybe the love affair that you have been feeding and has, gone through some trials and tribulations. Maybe that is what we're really going to embrace. And I think that is where there's some real optimism in our love life. Remember, Venus is retrograde in our seventh house, the sign of the house of partnerships and long-term commitments. From an optimism standpoint, I'm very hopeful that this is the case, and this is something to look forward to. But we did mention there were several other cards that fell out in our completion of the shuffle. So I won't go too in-depth on these, but I will tell you what they are, how I view them. The 10 of Pentacles, baby. Looks like money is on the way. And this isn't just like, a little bonus for doing some good work. This is generational wealth. This is everything that we are hoping for. This is the best card to pull when it comes to money. This is the energy we all want to step into. So a lot about that authenticity, I think, is what's going to set up that long-term plan in terms of wealth. And then the next few cards, we have the Death card, the Devil card, the Six of Swords, the Three of Pentacles, the Knight of Cups, the Seven of Pentacles, the Nine of Cups, and lastly, the Four of Swords reversed. So, boy, a lot of heavy energy. I think whatever hasn't been working, we are moving on from. We are calling it quits. That's what this Death card is all about. And while the Devil energy, I'm also a Capricorn, so I don't hate this card, but it's a little bit heavy when it comes to what it represents. I think that has to do with this death. I think there might be a relationship that maybe wasn't really good for us, or maybe was a little bit demanding of certain things that required us to limit and diminish ourselves. I mean, these people are chained to this relationship while they may be doing this of their own volition. It's all a choice that they're making. It is a little bit constricting to have those chains on you. So I think walking away from whatever that is, that's the general vibe of death in general. While it might be disappointing, it might feel like we are losing in a sense. I think that's what's for our greater good. We're going to meet new people, learn new things, talk about new endeavors, and really come together and broaden our mindset. With that, we may have that new love prospect that we are going to offer this cup to. The Knight of Cups is definitely hoping for more of a genuine connection. And while maybe our endeavors have not bared the fruit that we are hoping for, it's not a time to mope about it. It's not a time to worry about it. It's just a time to be patient. You can't pick fruit when they're not ripe yet, and you need to keep watering the plant until that time comes. It may not be as fast as we want it to, but that is not indicative of the fact that we will be achieving our goals and achieving the abundance that we are hoping for. It's just coming along a little bit slower than we may want it to. But that is not that bad. That is not for that's definitely for our greater good. I think maybe there's some things that we've been prideful of that maybe aren't actually beneficial. These cups, especially reversed, they're all empty. So even though this person is very happy about all of the quote unquote wins that they've stacked up, those are all in the past and they're not in the present moment. There is a little bit of pride and ego, a little bit of hubris that comes with this, especially when it's reversed. I mean, any liquid that would be in those cups is all spilling out. And I think it's all about moving forward, getting over what hasn't worked out in the past. But remember to rest up. We have been through a healing period, and listening to your body, not extending yourself too thin, is very, very important. Something to keep in mind. That's what the Four of Swords is all about. You need your rest, Aquarius. So that is what I have for you. That is the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more of this type of content, and I will revisit the sign of Aquarius when we enter the month of September. But look for other videos for all other signs here on this channel, on the live stream, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. If you would like a personal reading, you can email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com. It is written in the description of this video. Remember, I will never contact you directly. You can also find me on Instagram at niceandblunt. But I know that there are scammers about in this community. While I don't have a lot of followers, I just want to get ahead of that early on and prevent anyone from being, taken advantage of. I will never contact you directly. If you want to contact me, though, if you want a personal reading, you can email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com, and we can discuss pricing based on what you would like. But that's it for me. My name is Adam Riancho, and I appreciate you joining me for this live stream. And if you're watching after the fact, I really appreciate it as well. So have a good day, have a good weekend, have a great new moon, set those intentions, and watch it all manifest before your very eyes. Hope you have a great one. Thank you for watching, and